score excites you the most?
First, I want to say that I'm very proud to be here.
We're proud to have you
a
here.
fantastic cast. To do this Rigoletto. But the Rigoletto is a special opera. That is the first of the trilogy, no? Rigoletto, Trovatore, and Traviata. In this opera, we can find another special story of love. No, it's not the usual story of a soprano that love is in love of the tenor to each other, and the mezzo soprano that is just no. This story is going around the filial love. So, and the first time in the opera of Verdi that we can find this, and then he developed also this conception with Traviata, with Simone Boccanegra in Aida and Don Carlo. And the score is so rich of color that is not just an accompanimento for singer. It's like a sort of a dialogue with the singer and supporting the singers by the psychology of the moment during the story when they are on stage. So it's a big connection between the music and the psychology of the moment. There are the moments then the orchestra have to be very brilliant because Gilda is happy. Or moment when she is in love, and the orchestra is another kind of orchestra. The score shows this beautiful, sweet, and like a love. Or the revanche, malediction, filial love, and revanche. In these three cases, change the color of the orchestra, change the color of the music, and the orchestra and the score put the psychology also of the audience inside of a new theme, each one during the following of the opera.
So this opera really was kind of a revolutionary moment when, in 1851, when Verdi wrote this opera. It was really a break from what he'd done before.
Yes, absolutely.
In which it really added the dramatic.
Yes, it's in connection with what was happening in Italy at that time, 1850. We started the revolution against Austria that was dominating the north of Italy. And this kind of revanche we can find also before with Nabucco also.
Right, of course. So, Nadine, as one of the world's greatest lyric sopranos, with Gilda, you're returning to this role which you first performed on the stage of the Met in 2015. How has your take on the character evolved?
Ooh, she's evolved a lot. I always think that with singers, with artists, the way that we evolve in our lives, the way that things change and develop, I think that also plays into how we play characters on stage and how we ultimately allow those characters to evolve with us. Even Quinn is now a father of a daughter, and I think he probably understands a little bit more what it's like to think about your daughter in that sort of type of situation. And the idea of losing a child, that has to have an evolution, I think, in one's life. So for me with Gilda, I mean, now I'm very much a woman. I'm 36 years old. When I learned Gilda, I was 18 years old, so I was a little bit closer to her real age, which is probably around 15, 16. And I've developed as a person. I've learned a lot and experienced a lot, which Gilda has not. She's a very innocent, very naive sort of character. But she does have something that maybe before I didn't really realize, and I realize it now, being who I am now. She has a lot of inner and natural emotional intelligence and a sort of wisdom that I don't think one necessarily learns in life. It's just something you get if you're a very observant kind of person and if you stick to your beliefs. And she is that person. And And I had to maybe learn that over some time, to not just think of her as this young, silly girl who ultimately, takes her life for the stupid Duke. I mean, it's so annoying that she does that, isn't it? But as I've grown older, I've learned that she does it not just for the Duke. She also takes her life for her father, for Maddalena, for Sparafucile. Her very last words before she's stabbed are Dio loro perdonate, which means God, forgive them all. She's copying Jesus. She's martyring herself like she learned about Jesus Christ. That's a big thing. That's a big thing for a 15, 16-year-old girl to embark upon herself and to take that into her soul and try to forgive everybody else's sins. She's really remarkable, and I think I had to learn a little bit more about how remarkable she is as I grew older. I value her so much. She's really given me a lot in my life, very much so.
Well, in this production, they love you. So, as do all of us here. In this production, and you've obviously been in many Rigoletto productions, and Quinn, you've been in many, and Maestro, I'm sure you've conducted many. But in this production, just thinking about what you were just saying, Nadine, Bart Scher, the director of it, really wanted to emphasize the fact that Gilda is the master of her own fate. The way he staged it, he makes that point. So, which brings up an interesting, point. One of the, great challenges in opera, of course, is that great singers and conductors work in many, in the standard repertoire, of which Rigoletto obviously is a very important part. You work in many, many different productions of the same work, and it must be difficult, I would imagine, to switch gears from one director's interpretation to another's. For example, here at the Met, we had our Las Vegas Rigoletto that preceded this one. This Rigoletto is updated as well, not to the 1960s like the Las Vegas one, but to the 1900s of the Weimar Republic, which is a far cry, of course, for what Verdi wrote it for initially, which was the Renaissance period Mantua. But tell us, how do you find that to adapt? This is a question for you, Quinn, as well. How do you adapt to different styles of productions of the same opera?
I guess I take it as a kind of a personal challenge that it's a healthy learning experience. So I thankfully my first was what I consider to be a period production. So I'm glad that my first outing kind of set the standard for how I would shape any other production after that. But
which one was that?
Oslo in 2011. I think it was one of their older ones. It had been done a decade earlier, but very period. Everything just looks like Mantua and courtiers and everything. But I just go from one to the next, and I've kind of pushed myself into the shape and embody it, and then the next one is just it's a healthy way to have to rethink what you've done before, because obviously you can't take everything that you did in the last production to the new one. So in a way, it for me it keeps me fresh to go from one to the next, and then God forbid you get to come back and get back into one of the older ones that you've done before. Well, then that's always kind of a nice respite. But just dramatically and intellectually, that it keeps me thinking. It keeps my mind going, and I don't ever feel like I'm stagnating or taking a production or anything of my own performance for granted.
And are you able